All right, John, we have breaking news.
That we do.
The Chargers have hired a head coach, and it's not Brian Daboll.
No, it's not.
Brandon Staley.
Did not see this one coming, guy. Did not see this one coming.
How about that? Maybe does Brandon Staley and Tom Telesco, are their offices like 3 doors down, you think?
I don't know. They weren't college teammates or high school teammates, so, I thought that had to be that was a prerequisite for this connection, but I guess not. But If you're watching this, before we dive in, subscribe to the YouTube page. I'm John. Right. That's Guy.
Give this video a like and check out our podcast down in the description below. All right, so this is Herbert. You and I have talked about this from a Robert Saleh standpoint. Wouldn't be the worst thing for him to have a defensive coach. We don't know yet who the offensive coordinator is going to be. But let's talk about this from the Chargers Herbert perspective first. Remember, I think the first thing that comes to mind when you told me Brandon Staley just got hired by the Chargers is what Louis Riddick told us when he was on this podcast a week and a half ago, which is he thinks Brandon Staley is, in his words, a next-level coach.
Yeah, and I had heard by someone that worked around him that was down on him. Not down on him, but just thought the hype was out of control. This year spoke for itself. Their defense was fantastic. Clearly, he's an intelligent guy. I listened to him on the Peter King podcast. He was a college quarterback. And I saw Peter Schrager tweeting something about, everyone's this guy's only defense. He did play quarterback his entire life up until he started coaching. He's young. He's 38. I do think it's pretty bold, though, Guy. I mean, this guy was at John Carroll University as a coach, not a player, so maybe there were some connections there. And in 2016, and I think they were the national champions, but 2016, this guy had never been higher than – he was a GA for 1 year at Tennessee, but, his position coaches, he was at John Carroll, James Madison, John Carroll. Then Fangio hired him, which to me is not nothing, right? Vic Fangio hires this guy, thought really highly of him. Took him then when he got the job in Denver with him. I give McVay credit as we talk about scouting players a lot, but coaches scout coaches. You hear them. I watched Urban Meyer's press conference, and that's all he was talking about. It's such a huge deal when you get hired. But Vic values this guy, and that's something for sure. But now he's the head coach. Guy, less than 5 years ago, he was a defensive coordinator at John Carroll. Now he's a head coach in the NFL. Rise to prominence was pretty quick. I'd argue it's quicker than – say what you want about Kingsbury. He had played in the league. He had been coaching at Texas Tech for a while. You could argue of all the guys, this would be right up there of rise to prominence. Because at least the LaFleurs and the McVays, they've been in the league, right, for a long time.
Right.
This is kind of crazy.
It is. It is kind of crazy. It's another of the McVay golden touches. And this doesn't happen, I don't think, if he just, quote-unquote, interviews well and just coached the 15th ranked defense in the league. He just coached the number 1 ranked defense in the league. Now, he had really good players, right? Really good players. In the same way we talked about Robert Saleh had really good players. I mean, he had the best player. Maybe the two. He had the best defensive player overall and the best corner in the league on his defense.
Yeah, I mean, he had 2 of the top, 4, 3. I mean, he might have 2 best. It's up there.
Now, they do have good talent on the Chargers defense when it's healthy. But again, the Chargers' issue this year was not that they don't have good players on defense. It's not that their offense can't score. Their biggest issue was it's not that they didn't have a leader as a coach. That Anthony Lynn was clearly that. Their game management was a disaster. And we just have no sense for whether or not that's something Brandon Staley can do.
Little surprised that they've gone back to back to back now first-time head coaches. Remember, they went Mike McCoy, who was at Denver years ago. Then they went with Anthony Lynn, and now they're going this guy. To me, the last time they really had sustained success, now it was short-lived, was with Marty Schottenheimer.
Yeah.
Kind of was an Andy Reid, Ron Rivera. You knew what you were getting. Now, it doesn't always work out. Mike McCarthy, that just happened. If Mike McCarthy had been on the open market, let's say he had sat out the year, just got hired, I would probably give it credit. So it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback with this whole thing. But I don't know, man. I think this is pretty risky. Now, he's smart. He's really intelligent when you listen to him talk. So I just listened to the interview. I understand why Louis, I'm sure talking football with him, is really impressed. But they got a lot on the line, man. I mean, they feel like they have a transcendent quarterback talent. Like you said, they just have a good roster of players. They've been just kind of in the mix, right? This is not your typical Jacksonville job. This is at least you get to start from scratch. the expectations are going to be pretty high. Now, I get the fans, it's a unique team.
It's not a
in
high
terms
pressure
of the way it's
job.
followed.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
the expectations are more from. I mean, obviously they're external like around the football world than they are in your local market. Probably feels. Yeah.
I completely understand why he took the job. I would have had to think long and hard for Telesco because my career is somewhat on the line, and I'm a good GM, right? I've proven now I'm a really good GM. I pushed for Anthony Lynn. He wasn't a disaster by any means, but it clearly just was never going to work, right? Long term.
It felt like you weren't going to realize Herbert's ceiling. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you get another coaching hire. You're kind of taking a swing for the fences on this one. Like this doesn't quite feel like a double. Like this is a single or he's grounding home.
I think the other risk
that'd be my opinion when you take a swing for a young guy.
It does not feel like a double. It's a home run swing, which I understand. I mean, I get it. Like you're in the Rams market, they've hit a home run. Like you can't afford. You could argue if you're them, the Chargers, you got Herbert. You can't afford.
Does it help the connection? Does it get you talked about more that McVay and this guy are going to be friends now, kind of? So whenever McVay's talked about, they're talking about this guy?
Maybe.
I wouldn't think about that stuff.
Has Brandon Staley been doing like a local radio show every Tuesday with Roger Lodge or something? I don't know.
Probably not.
But the other risk in this, if it whiffs, Justin Herbert, as you and I know, and a lot of people who watch our Herbert videos or listen to the podcast who are Ducks fans know, Justin Herbert had 3 coaches in college. Right, he had Mark Helfrich, then he had Willie Taggart, then he had Mario Cristobal. Now that's 3 coaches in 4 years. Anthony Lynn was his 4th coach in 5 years. Now he's on his 5th coach in 6 years.
Yeah,
like I just we talk about Alex Smith over the years and everything that he overcame and bad organizations, and this team is talented and their trajectory looks like it's headed up because of their talent. But you're right. If you whiff because you didn't just hire a safe, we know he's Marvin Lewis. Just give me a head coach who's proven he can handle a bad organization. And
I think Jim Caldwell probably works too.
Right. I mean, there's just like you said, you think that, and then you end up with McCarthy, and it's like, oh no, we just missed an opportunity. But I just hope we're not looking back in 2 years going, all right, Herbert's about to be on his 7th coach in 8 years or something like that, right? Like that'd be dangerous.
Yeah, because to me, it's one thing with the head coach, the one thing with the coordinator. Kirk Cousins, when you look through his coordinators, like the last 6 or 7 years, outrageous. His years in Washington, every year in Minnesota. He's had years where he's had multiple in the same year. But to me, the head coach, the message stays the same. The billboards on the wall every day stay the same. Changing head coaches is a dramatic shift, right? I mean, it's like be the equivalent to like getting new friends and like new parents, It's like, holy moly. And I don't know, man. They were going to have change no matter what. And I understand this guy played in college, but he's coached defense his entire life. Like that is his prowess as a coach is on the defensive side of the ball, right? I mean, he just coached the number 1 defense. So it's like, you can't tell me what he's a college quarterback. Yeah, it's a long time ago. And it was at Dayton. To me, this is really risky for Justin Herbert, man. I'm rooting for this to succeed. Like I want Brandon Staley to do well, but I don't know. I mean, the amount of guys, and we've talked about this a lot, there used to be such a premium on experience. And I think what makes the McVay got it to the NFL when he was 23 years old. So when he got hired at 30, like every day of his working life, the moment college ended, he was coaching, right? So he was young. But it's not like he GA'd for 3 years, then he got a position coach at Montana for a year, then got a quality control guy and jumped up really fast. Started from exactly the bottom and worked his way up around John Gruden, Jay Gruden, and the Shanahans. So it's like he got a pretty unique tutorial for 10 years. You see the like when they show Sean McDermott's resume, you're like, God, he put in his time.
Yeah, he did.
In the league.
He got fired.
Like even Urban Meyer, he got fired. He had to start from scratch with Ron Rivera in Carolina, and they built that thing up together. So he got to learn from Jim Johnson, Andy Reid, get fired, and then go learn somewhere else. Kyle had to bounce around. Like, I think you start getting risky with these guys. Like, I think Cliff falls into that in the sense of never been in the league as a coach. This guy,
but Cliff was less. I could even argue Cliff was less risk. Cliff was less risky in the sense that you'd seen his resume as a head coach, and it wasn't great. Right?
Yeah, but at least you had some tangible, like him leading a team. I just wonder if we jumped the shark a little bit on, like, Robert Saleh had been in the league for 12, 13 years, right?
Yeah.
That to me is, at least, even if you're going to hire a 40-year-old guy, hired a 38-year-old guy that got to the league in 2017. Pretty bold. I mean, that's just, I don't want to say unprecedented, because I remember a big thing that was always when I worked in Philly, the origin of Andy Reid's story was they did a study when they hired Andy Reid and saying that being a coordinator does not determine success. Right, just because you're and this is the thing with Eric Bieniemy or Brian Daboll or Arthur Smith, just because you're a good coordinator doesn't mean you're going to be a head coach. Sometimes position coaches are. It's about like getting the right person and, you know, like his qualities around people and leadership, and that stuff matters too. So like that, I don't know if you quite develop, like once you're 38, like your leadership characteristics, you might learn new tactics or whatever, but your person's kind of developed. So that would be the pushback. This is very Chargers. You know, it feels kind of like a Charger hire.
You do save on the relocation fee.
Yeah,
but I
would imagine he's not one of the highest. He's probably the lowest paid.
But see, that's where last thing I'll say. You just made me think this is. I do wonder if they looked at it. I do think if you're Telesco, you could convince yourself of this. In a year, he's gonna be a guy a lot of people want to hire. Like in a year, he's gonna be doing 6 interviews like Robert Saleh. In a year, he's going to be a guy that, now I know he's not a defensive coach, but the way people talked about, he's going to be this McVay. They're going to be a really good defense again. In a year, he's going to have 5 interviews. We, the Chargers, don't tend to get into bidding wars, to your point, for people. So we got to take a swing here, hiring him early before he becomes a hot name. Now you better be right, but I wonder if that was part of their thinking. It's like, this guy's about to be a head coach. Maybe him and McVay run into each other at the gym or something. I guess you don't really run into anybody these days, but I do wonder if that was part of their thinking. Like, we're betting that this guy, he's a year away from becoming a head coach, and we won't be able to win him over then.
It's an incredible opportunity for this guy.
Yeah.
Like, it's your first-time job to inherit a roster like this, talent like this, and a GM who's pretty good. It could be the best. I do think it was the best job on the market, and the least qualified guy of all the candidates by far just got the best job on the market. Now, it's not the way it works. Like, ultimately they're choosing, and who knows. But it's pretty nuts when you just look at it like that.